Wow, Nick, you really sparked my imagination with this video about Palantir. And I mean, most people would gloss over this concept, but because, I mean, you have to understand my background. I joined the Navy when I was 17, an electronics technician. So I was really into electronics. And I used to build electronics kits of various devices, multimeters, other devices, radios. But you'd get a kit from a company called Heathkit. And in those days, most computer items, most electronic technique items were discrete components, resistors, capacitors, conductors, things you soldered to a circuit board. And we would go through this process of soldering all these components together and connecting all these wires and fire this thing up. And well, it would work or smoke. And a couple that smoke, but most of the time they worked. And I bought my first computer, a Heathkit 889. It was a kit. It was like $1,000 in the 80s. It's a lot of money. Took a lot of convincing to convince my wife to let me spend $1,000 on this computer, which was a lot of discrete components and circuit boards. Anyway, I put this thing all together and I had a computer. But in the process, I had to learn some things that most people today don't pay any attention to. For example, I really got into the operating system. The CPU of this computer was an 8080 chip, and it was you, there was a lot of discussion about the capabilities of this chip, and people would talk about what you could do with this processing central processing unit CPU chip. And in order to use it, you had to have an operating system that was written primarily in machine language. But if you learned, for example, assembler language, you could program in machine language to directly talk to the equipment that was part of the computer, the video, um, the storage, everything connected to the computer, you could talk to it. So when this, when you read this, that it says in its S1 filing for its IPO in 2020, Palantir explicitly stated its desire to become the default operating system for data across the US government. I mean, that really piqued my brain because I'm thinking operating system for data across the entire US government. And then the next line, which you did not read, which hit me even harder, was Immigration OS. So, immigration operating system. Again, an operating system for immigration. In 2025, the company announced a $30 million contract with the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement to build Immigration OS, a new AI system for tracking immigrants. And I thought, Immigration OS? An operating system within ICE? So I decided, you know what? I'm not going to even dive into uh, what is Immigration OS. I'm just going to ask my chat GPT What is the current status of Immigration OS? That's what I asked him. I didn't tell it anything more. I just said, hey, what is the current status of Immigration OS? And the answer came right back. Immigration OS is currently active and fully deployed across the Enforcement and Removal Operations Branch, ERO, of ICE. Developed by Palantir Technologies under a $30 million contract, the platform moved beyond its initial September 2025 prototype into ongoing operations maintenance and adaptive support running through September of 2027. Immigration OS functions as a massive automated data aggregation system built directly on top of ICE's existing investigative case management system, their ICM infrastructure. It acts as an always-on surveillance pipeline by executing three core capabilities. Targeting and enforcement prioritization. The system automatically ingests and cross-references vast public and private data silos, including IRS tax files, Social Security data, passport records, and automated license plate readers. It builds AI-driven profiles to instantly flag and rank individuals for deportation, prioritizing visa overstays, gang members, and violent criminals. I don't know why visa overstays was listed first, because it would seem like it should be violent criminals, then maybe gang members, and then maybe visa overstays. But even visa overstays in the same category or list as violent criminals and gang members. Second function is near real-time self-deportation tracking. Unlike previous frameworks, Immigration OS introduces specialized code to monitor, verify, and log instances of non-citizens voluntarily leaving the United States in near real time. And then end-to-end logistics, the third purpose. It automates the administrative and logistic steps of the deportation process, drastically reducing the time and the resources required to move an individual from initial identification to physical removal. So I want you to think about, again, there's this concept of an operating system within ICE and the enforcement leg of ICE is fully active on this operating system, which runs the entire concept of targeting and enforcement prioritization, real-time self-deportation tracking, and end-to-end life cycle logistics to drastically reduce the time and resources required to move an individual from initial identification to physical removal. That is all run. Think about the operating system on your computer. If you even know what that operating system is. And the programs that you run, the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, you have no idea what the operating system is doing. The operating system is taking care of putting things on the screen, of recording your voice and your video and posting things on the internet. And I will talk to the internet, to the provider, to the device, to the specific place I need to put this file so that it can then be transferred to the place where it can then be available. All of that is happening in the background by the operating system. And now there is an operating system for ICE. And remember, going back to that original statement where Palantir explicitly stated its desire to become the default operating system for data across the US government. The entire US government would be running this operating system that is written by Palantir, and I am absolutely sure it is a privatized, private, solely owned by the company product. They're already talking about we need more licenses and we need maintenance of this operating system, which we don't own. Microsoft, your Microsoft or Mac, if you're using a Mac or the Mac OS, you don't own that. You rent the license or you buy a license to be able to use their software, but you don't own the software. You certainly can't modify it. And if you do, you could break the agreement so that you won't get any more updates. And oh, by the way, you'll get these automatic updates to your operating system from the company, and you have very little idea of what the code is actually being loaded onto your machine. There are a lot of people out there that watch that stuff and try and keep track of it and try and make sure that something isn't being loaded on your machine that shouldn't be. But think of the entire government running on an operating system that gets patched by Palantir. I mean, to me, this is mind blowing. Because the other thing that my AI reported to me, my little chat GPT reported to me, Immigration OS has dramatically shifted federal immigration's logistics into a highly automated workflow. Highly automated workflow. Because it flags minor inconsistencies between databases instantly. It introduces new operational variables for different groups. For HR, for employees, for people that employ people, HR, payroll, and immigration compliance files. HR, payroll, and immigration compliance files must be flawless as minor data mismatches or tax reporting errors can now trigger automated workplace enforcement attention. Automated workplace enforcement attention. Because there was a data mismatch. And this whole immigration logistics is an automated work for individuals and visa holders. Individuals like you and me, and visa holders, which may be some of them. Legal advocates heavily advise carrying physical documentation proving current lawful status at all times. Automated data checks can leave individuals unaware of an algorithmic flag until enforcement action is initiated. In other words, when they show up at your door. So legal advocates heavily advise carrying physical documentation proving current lawful status at all times. Let me see your papers. I need to see your papers. Where are you going? Where are you coming? What are you going to do? I need to see your papers. So I have to tell you, Nick, this video really knocked my socks off in terms of the ramifications and the implications of an operating system level of software. And you and I both know that that software is more than likely built heavily using AI. And files must be flawless, as minor data mismatches or tax reporting errors can now trigger automated workplace enforcement protection. Folks showing up at your place of work to arrest somebody because of a minor data mismatch or tax reporting error. Or for us walking down the street or eating supper at night, automated data checks can leave individuals unaware that they have been flagged until enforcement action is initiated. Let me know if you actually see this video. I wanted to thank you for sharing the video that you shared because, wow, I mean, just wow. And I think for me, coming from a background of computers that where we used to play with the operating system at that level of code, and we used to really get into that stuff. It is scary for me to hear that we are going to have a government operating system or an immigration OS. I mean, that's just terrible.